Hi, I'm Tom from Peavey, here at the wonderful GAK in Brighton with our Vypyr series of amplifiers, namely the Vypyr 75 and the Vypyr 30. The Vypyr series is our modelling range of amplifiers, but because it's by Peavey, it's not like a normal modelling amplifier. Firstly, very highly spec'd, still one of the best spec'd modelling amps out there. We've got 24 different amp channels. We've got 5 simultaneous effects when using the pedals with them as well. Effects have dual parameters, fully editable. We've got a huge range of different sounds, all of which sound great because within these we have our patented Trance tube technology, which you can find in the Trance tube range, such as the legendary Peavey Bandit, Envoy, etc. And how Trance tube works is it emulates how an actual tube amp works. So basically, breaking a tube amp down into various different parts, without getting too technical, every gain stage clips asymmetrically, how the tube bias shift interacts with the output transformer, lower damping factors in the power stage, etc. Getting all those elements right and then like a good recipe, putting them together in the correct proportions, it actually allows what is a solid state amp to actually feel, behave, and more importantly sound like a tube amp. And the other important thing to add, probably the most important thing of all, is Trance tube is completely analog. It's a complete analog circuit. So in a Vypyr, all your amp sounds, all your distortions you're going to hear are created using an analog circuit, which coupled with the whole Trance tube system means that not only are you getting a great feel from your amplifier, but you get all those rich harmonics which tubes naturally create, which is basically what allows your guitar to cut through in a mix. So, whereas modelling amplifiers are normally sort of not known for their gig-worthy status, these, much like the Bandit was before them, is a solid state amp you can actually gig, and a modelling amp that you can actually gig. So, all that aside, from your inputs here, we have 11 stomp boxes, 12 amp models, 11 rack effects, and then we have a separate delay and reverb. So just in the amp alone, we have 4 simultaneous effects you can have. But I'll start off by talking about the amp models. The amp models in the middle here, because this is a working signal chain, so the stomp boxes drive the amps, and the effects here, the rack effects, are essentially in the effects loop. Your amp models, there are 12, neatly split down the middle. You've got your sort of high gain, full-on metally stuff here on the left, and then on the right hand side we've got our more classic stuff, so models, Fenders, Marshalls, Vox, etc. And every amp has 2 channels. So the first amp model I have selected here is a model of a Fender Twin. So as you'd expect, lots of warm, lovely, clean headroom. So if we were to push the amp model dial, it takes us to the red channel of that amp. So nothing overly gainy, it's based on a hot-rodded Fender Twin, nice and sort of bluesy, clippy overdrive. Every amp has a green low gain or clean channel and a red higher gain channel. For instance, the red channel of the Plexi model here has more sort of modern bottom end. And the green channel of a Brit mode, which is based on a Vox AC30, has a really characterful, sort of clean, tubey clean sound. When we get round to our higher gain stuff, the green channel on most of these is actually based on the crunch channel. And this is a good time to mention the interface, which is the WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get interface, because as you may notice, I'm going round, all the EQs are preset to each amp, and you can actually see how they're all set. If I were to edit the crunch channel of the 6505 here to have less gain, so it sounds like this. If we went to edit another amplifier and go back to the 6505 crunch channel, you'll see the pre-gains where it was. And this is the beauty of the WYSIWYG interface. It's very intuitive as you're changing stuff. You don't have to be saving presets every time you select something. and you can really dial in your EQ and amp settings. And then just to give you an idea of some of the higher gain sounds in the Vypyr, this is the 6505 red channel. To select an effect, both effects here, the stomp boxes and rack effects, are bypassed up here at 1 o'clock. You just turn the dial to select an effect, such as the analog phase, and that is already preset. It's a model of a phase 90, and this is how it sounds. If you want to edit the effect, we go into edit mode, and that's done by clicking the stomp box dial on what were your amp parameters and now your effects parameters. So we've got parameter 1 and 2 for the phaser, which is rate and depth. And then we have the parameters for delay and the reverb. These have the levels turned down at the moment, so the effects are bypassed. If we want to bring in some delay, we can just turn the level up here, and then you have feedback and tap tempo, so it's triple parameters for a delay. The reverb is just a single global control. If we want to select one of the rack effects, such as tremolo, we just select the effect. If we then want to edit that effect, we click the rack effect dial, and it goes into edit mode for that particular effect. And then we can just edit the speed and depth of the tremolo. The delay and reverb stay the same in both edit modes. In the effects, we have phasers, flanges, there's a ring modulator, chorus, big muff, there's a tube scream and another overdrive. In the rack effects, there's an octaver, a reverse delay, slapback delay, pitch shift, rotary speaker, basically lots and lots of versatility. Like I say, you can have your stomp box effect, rack effect, delay, reverb. When you use the Sanpera 2 pedals, you can have a fifth effect as well. You can bring in a looper that you can actually see on the rack effects, but you can only access when you have either of the Sanpera pedals. But when you do have those pedals, you can access the loop. You can do up to 30 seconds of a loop. What you can also do with the pedals is you can use them for, you can use the expression pedal to use as a wah. If you have a pitch shift selected, the expression pedal will automatically control the pitch shift as well, and you can change presets, of which there are 12 on the front of the amp as well. All in all, a very versatile package. This is the 75, the 30 is very, very similar. It's a slightly smaller actual combo, but they're both 1x12. The 75 obviously has more power, therefore more headroom. There's also the USB port here, which when you use that, it actually shows the amplifier up as a audio interface, so if you plug it into your computer, nice little extra feature. 30 though is very capable of at least doing a practice, if not a small gig. But again, the Vypyr series with a Trance tube is all about having a modelling amp that you can actually gig live.